Mega Man has been an essential part of my gaming career for 26 years. My parents rented a copy of Mega Man 4 when I was 3 years old, and the rest was history. As a young child, the game was challenging, but it helped strengthen my reflexes. Despite only beating 3 bosses at the time, I was obsessed with the Blue Bomber. I've been through the highs and lows of the series, from the mainline Mega Man games, the X franchise, the Battle Network games, and even the Legends series. The characters' adventures have been some of my favourite games ever. Over the past few years, Capcom has started to bring the most iconic adventures back to consoles, with the X Legacy collection launching 2 months ago. With Mega Man 11, Capcom is taking the hero back to his roots, with some new tricks up his sleeves. Mega Man 11 is an old-school game with some modern touches. The full 3D sections of Mega Man X7 and X8 are gone. Instead, players are treated to a 2.5D experience that feels like the quintessential Mega Man. Everything that made the franchise so memorable in the first place is front and centre. The platforming is responsive, the combat is tense, the enemies are varied, and the difficulty is relentless. The game felt like I was transported to the past. As someone who always loved Mega Man, the latest instalment had me smiling throughout the game's 7-hour runtime. The new gameplay mechanic in Mega Man 11 is called Double Gear, and it truly is a game changer. This mechanic allows Mega Man to either slow down time or increase his damage for a small duration. Knowing when to use a specific gear is the difference between life and death. During some boss battles, amplifying your weapons can deal massive damage when you need it the most. What I love about the power gear is that you can also strengthen weapons obtained by defeating bosses. In many instances, the gear makes these attacks a devastating force that can take out mini-bosses and other robot masters in no time. Using your speed gear will allow you to dodge projectiles and grab a quick breath before a devastating attack. The speed gear not only slows down the environment, but Mega Man as well. During some particularly difficult platforming sections, I found the mechanic to be a lifesaver. When you are close to death, Mega Man can activate both gears at the same time for a more powerful attack. The downside to this is that when your meter runs out, your damage output weakens for a short amount of time. I fell victim to the negative effects of this move on a handful of occasions. The narrative in the Mega Man franchise has never been a strong point, and Mega Man 11 is no exception. The story is paper thin and revolves around Dr. Wily stealing the double gear system, infecting 8 robots and then using them to attempt to take over the world. If you've played any Mega Man game, you know what to expect. The narrative is serviceable, but nothing worth bragging about. I adore the visual style in Mega Man 11. Simply put, it's a beautiful game to look at. The graphics are vibrant, the character models look fantastic, and the levels are sights to behold. Mega Man 11 runs at what appears to be 60 frames per second. If it doesn't, that's genuinely surprising because the movement is so crisp and seems to run flawlessly. The audio elements are also top-notch. The score is infectious, with the traditional type of soundtrack being front and centre among all levels. The sounds from the shooting, various enemies, the one-liners from the robot masters before battles, and the sounds upon using your gear are treats to the ears. Whether I played on handheld mode or my TV, I made sure to raise the volume to enjoy what Capcom had made. I love challenging video games, but Mega Man 11 is often relentless. For the first few hours of playing the game, I found myself unable to progress. The various levels are full of deadly traps and tough platforming that put this Mega Man veteran to the test. After a while, I started to find my stride, but the journey to feeling comfortable took a while. Once you start upgrading Mega Man using bolts found in levels, the game becomes easier. Gear upgrades, new skills, and being able to buy resources makes the difficulty more manageable down the line. Upgrades reduce the frustration I felt during the opening hours. There are 4 difficulty levels, and even challenges that will keep you playing long after the credits roll. Some challenges include boss rush mode and obstacle courses meant to test even the best Mega Man players. With the inclusion of leaderboards in the challenge modes, I know that this section will keep me glued to the Switch for months to come. In terms of negatives, there's nothing bad I really have to say about the game. While I don't consider this a negative, I know that the difficulty will be very off-putting to some. Checkpoints are few and far between, the enemies can be tough, and some of the set pieces leave no room for error. After a few lackluster installments, Capcom has brought the iconic hero back to his roots with impressive results. Mega Man 11 is a love letter to fans, and it brings one of my favourite characters into the spotlight once again. The old-school gameplay will please fans, and the new mechanics will offer players, both old and new, a challenging experience. Despite having a repetitive story, like the rest of the franchise, Mega Man 11 is everything I've wanted from the Blue Bomber and Capcom for the last few years. I think this is going to be the start of a Mega Man resurgence in the gaming industry. Whether we see him in more fighting games or other standalone adventures, one thing is for sure. It's great to see Mega Man back again, and Mega Man 11 is the perfect way to reintroduce the popular hero to the mainstream once again.